Welcome back, Visions fans. Ready Player Will here. This is an impromptu video that I'm making on the spot from something that I just saw posted on the War of the Visions subreddit. There is a new website, WOTVstats.com, that someone has compiled. Ariantes, I believe is their name on the subreddit if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but basically it data mines the game data to look historically at Guild War results, roster changes, who's joined guilds and left guilds, what their results were, and basically tracks the unit usage as well. Now, I'm sure there's lots of other data that can be built out, but they've essentially started off with a dashboard here to try to track attack teams and defense teams as, let's say, the primary way to look at things. And I am flabbergasted that this is actually a thing. I did not know that you were able to data mine the results historically of the game, because there are enormous implications to see different kinds of trends and what's happening. But for me as a content creator, one of my biggest things I've absolutely been struggling with for the longest time is how to speak to the entire audience of War of the Visions, where obviously everyone's got a different gameplay experience depending upon where they are in Guild Wars. Now, I've tried to constantly reiterate this to say, like, this is what we're seeing at the top end of the game. And quite frequently, my answer to what a lot of people say is like, oh, I've had success with so-and-so. Well, my answer is typically, you know what, if you've had success, then that's good, keep at it. Even if I know that they may be like objectively wrong, min-maxing or stress testing to the top end of the game, because the reality is not everyone plays that way, right? So if someone is using a lot of a certain character and getting good results, then what happens at the top end of the game doesn't really matter at all. And so I wanted to look at a couple things here to kind of break down and show you why my experience is skewed in certain ways. And I've done my best to try to listen to the broader community, to still do some cherry picking research and looking at certain guilds. I'm in a bunch of different discords of different ranks. Also, I can try to keep my finger on the pulse of the community, but it's obviously hard not knowing how everyone competes. But I wanted to show just how drastic some of the differences are in gameplay experience. What I'm going to show you is 3 charts right here, right now, of characters used on defense year to date, so January to March, and then I'm going to show you the top 100 guilds. I'm then going to filter that down to the top 10 guilds, and then I'm going to show you the 100 to 200 guilds, and just see exactly how their metas on defense have essentially changed over time, and how you're seeing the impact of how certain guilds strategize. So what we're seeing on the screen at the moment is the top 100 guilds year to date, which top 15 characters. So what immediately stands out here is the very long and popular Elena usage, which, not unsurprising, I actually still get lots of questions about her, and I'll always answer them, but there was a piece of me that's always been a little puzzled to be like, I thought we've kind of understood Elena at this point. Well, I'm still getting questions on her, and I always thought that was somewhat puzzling, but obviously looking at the top 100, it stands to reason that, yeah, people are still curious about hit rates and how she performs and how you counter her, because she is still getting such heavy usage. Now, alongside of her, it does seem to be a split of Jaden and Sylvie, but you also see Locke, who's down here, so it is some combination of those 4 units. But they've all remained relatively consistent above some of the other elements. The second one observing here is the dark units, which is these purple lines here, and Dark Fina and Dark Leela obviously are the 2 most correlated to the top end of things, and that third unit tends to be either Halloween Lucia or Knight of Ruin Stern, with some relative consistent usage. So the takeaway is, yes, Light and Dark is obviously still strong, and has been strong year to date in these top 100 guilds. There have been some small upticks in Wind, as we've seen here, where Sodali and Flagbearer Glaciella have seen some increased usage, but as of late, it's actually seen a drop with an increase in some of the ice meta dating back to the middle of February here, which is very interesting because the top 10 is completely different, as we're going to see in a second. But this is one of my favorite things about seeing this is now, I've always said that I try to cater to the top 25 guilds as my audience, because there's just such a drastically different experience between what I see in the top 25 and what we see in the top 100 that it's hard to speak to both. But now let's transition very quickly to what we're seeing in the top 10 guilds year to date, their top 15 characters. A lot of different colors and a lot of different hills and valleys here. Now, part of that is once you get toward the top 10 of the game, guilds create what they call walls or macros, and it's essentially you get 30 of the same kind of teams on defense. So what you're seeing here is a lot of these characters are going higher or lower because they're moving in chunks of 30, if you will. You're also seeing the strategic chess matchup here, where in the top 10, you know essentially who you're going to get matched up with. You can track who they've been recently using, and so you kind of play this chess game to anticipate your matchup. So you will see quite frequently walls rotate and very quick shifts in some of the elements, where that's obviously not the case for the top 100. But if you are looking at the units, let's first look at Elena and Jaden. Yes, as of late, they had seen a small rise in popularity, but for an exceptionally long time, they were not a strong cast of characters within the top 10. They had some small peaks and valleys, but you're also seeing something that happened when I made my Psaro character review a month ago. I had looked at Mysidia's video on the should you pull and had that moment of realization where there's a certain audience that's obviously not participating in the same game that I'm seeing, where Psaro is one of the top units here, and he has been paired with Sadali and Flagbearer Glaciella. It's been one of the most difficult teams to beat consistently. And then you are seeing some of the rises and falls in the lightning cast of characters here as well, which you did not observe in the top 100. If we go back, you see lightning from Final Fantasy 13, but you see nothing else of any of the other lightning units here, whereas in the top 10 guilds, you are seeing Resnick and Skahal. And then on here is a color, again, on defense, that you're not seeing at all on the former chart. There actually is some water usage here where Astrius and several other water characters are being used to help counter some of what you're seeing in that Flagbearer Glaciella, Psaro, and Sadali comp. So very different story here in terms of who's actually getting used, which would definitely skew anyone's gameplay experience. And if we take this one step further to who people are using outside of the top 100, and I narrowed this down to the top 100 to 200 guilds. There's obviously guilds past 200, but I would imagine many of those guilds don't actually change frequently, so I don't want it to skew too much of the data. Guilds 100 to 200, you are seeing that very popular prolonged Elena usage. You are seeing Snow maintain even higher than where he was versus the top 10 and the top 100. And then you're seeing characters that have kind of fallen by the wayside for many people in the top end of the game, where you see 3 tanks here with King Mont, Celeste, and June, who were not featured on the prior slide, but even Yuna still being some top end usage here in the 100 to 200. I would have never guessed that a very large portion of the fan base is still using Yuna. Heck, even Black Rose Elena is still here. And again, not terribly surprising per se, where you figure people that are playing in the top 100 to 200 aren't actively pulling for units. They're probably not maxing them as quickly. So there probably is like a 1 to 3 month, if not 5 month lag on when they pull a character to when they're Guild War ready. So you're probably seeing a lot of that lag built into here. But I wanted to just share some initial thoughts and results because I thought this was the coolest thing. And I wanted to give some insight as to why I sometimes speak the way I do when I put certain asterisks on certain statements. I try not to speak too broadly, generally in definite terms, because at the end of the day, we are seeing different things in our day-to-day experience from Guild Wars. Not even looking at what attack teams have, because there's a lot more variety in what people use on attack than what they use on defense. Where because we're looking at defense teams, these must be the objective best team that can be put out there strategically. And at this point, I'm just rambling, but I had to make this video. I thought this was the coolest thing. I know there's probably a lot of people that watch my channel that enjoy the metrics of things and enjoy how I try to speak to certain things. And I thought this was incredibly valuable insight, not only for me, but obviously for all of you as well. So definitely encourage you to go to that website. I'm definitely going to make some more videos and content looking at trends that I'm seeing, and obviously use that and implement that into my review so that I can speak and cater a little more to my wider audience. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all soon.